This is tutorial 3, introducing the research toolkit for the campaign It's Time to Talk, Children's Views on Children's Work. And this recording is made by Claire and Nicholas. The toolkit has been developed to help you organise and run consultations. It includes background information about the purpose of the consultations, the research questions and the consultation tools. It provides guidance for organising consultation teams, guidance for applying basic requirements for effective and ethical participation of children, some optional consultation plans, detailed descriptions for each of the main consultation activities, and additional annexes with games and energizers and other useful resources.
Hello everyone, this is Nicholas. So, the research toolkit will be accompanied by a series of documents which are key to the campaign. So one of it is the documentation guidelines that is also being described in tutorial number 4 that we encourage you to follow and listen to. We'll also have transcription tables that will be used to document and enter all the results of the tools that we'll be presenting today. There is an information leaflet for participants, an individual questionnaire and informed consent form, which is mandatory to be used through interviews with each child. So we'll talk further about this in this tutorial, but this is really one of the key and central aspects of the campaign. Then we have a code of conduct for consultation organizers and facilitators, and finally a document with frequently asked questions and answers about the campaign. Apart from that, so now I will explain you some of the key research questions we are using. So these are some of the examples. So the first one is, under which conditions do children work? And this question and the tools that we will be using will help us looking at different types of work, sectors, if the work is paid or unpaid, social security, and so on. Another question is, how do girls and boys balance work, school, play, and other opportunities? So what do girls and boys like and dislike about their work, and why? What are the different reasons and motivations for children's work? What type of work do girls and boys think they can do or should not do or should do and they cannot do, and why? And then another example is, what are children's messages to different groups of people to improve the lives of working children?
We are using basic requirements for effective and ethical participation that have been developed by the Committee on the Rights of the Child to help plan and run the consultations. There are 9 basic requirements. The first is that participation is transparent and informative. So we've included some child-friendly information sheets that we encourage you to translate and use in local languages to inform children about the consultations. The second is that their participation is voluntary. So again, based on the information, we hope children will have the choice to participate and also be aware that they have the option to opt out at any stage of the process that they no longer want to take part. The third is that their participation is respectful, that it respects the views of different children who take part in the consultations, and that it also respects their time and their availability when they would like to participate. The requirement 4 is that it's relevant. So this is particularly focusing on that the consultations are organised with children who are currently working and have an interest to express their views and their ideas on how to improve their working lives. 5 is that participation is child-friendly and that there's efforts made to make the environment friendly and accessible to children from different backgrounds, and that child-friendly consultation tools are used. So you'll see in the toolkit that we're encouraging use of kind of participatory methods, quite a lot in the visual, and encourage use of drawing and drama and body mapping, different tools that we'll explain more later in this tutorial to make it interesting for children of different ages and backgrounds. 6 is that participation is inclusive. So again, we're encouraging agencies involved in the consultations to organise consultations with children of different backgrounds, different working backgrounds, encouraging inclusion of children with disabilities, children who are stateless or children who are on the move and also working. The 7 is that it's supported by training. So these webinars are one of the ways to to share information and increase the skills of organisations planning to organise the consultations. There are also some regional face-to-face trainings being organised for consultation organisers. And 9 is that participation is accountable, so we very much encourage you to keep children informed about the process. We're also working collaboratively with children's advisory committees who will be involved in the ongoing analysis and development of reports. So as campaign organisers, we'll keep you informed, and we very much encourage you to share this information with children who are involved. In terms of organising consultation teams, the Research Toolkit includes guidance on this, and wherever possible we encourage that the consultations are organised by a minimum group of three people, a focus group discussion facilitator who facilitates the activities either with groups of boys or with groups of girls from similar working backgrounds, that each group has a documenter to document the details of what children say and to support the kind of notes on the activities themselves, and that somebody is allocated with responsibilities to be the child protection focal point that will take more responsibility to assess risks prior to the consultations and to respond to any risks or disclosures of harm that children may raise during the consultations themselves, and ensure sensitive follow-up.
Thank you, Claire. So in the toolkit, you will see that we have identified a number of golden rules for the facilitators. So the first rule is that we really encourage you to share information with children and their parents or caregivers to ensure informed consent and to ensure that children know they have the option and the right to opt out at any time. So for that also, we really need to ensure that the individual questionnaire and consent form is completed for each child who is part of the consultations. The second rule is to provide space for girls and boys to express their views and experiences about work and how it affects their protection, well-being, and development. So this is really related to the core of the campaign, which is to bring and raise the voices of children and child workers worldwide. The third rule is please try to not influence what children say. So we know that sometimes there is this temptation as adults to influence what they say or to modify, but we really encourage you that even if you sometimes don't agree with their perspectives, please do not influence or change their views during or even following the consultations at the time of transcribing and returning the results. The fourth rule is to document and share the results together with the individual questionnaire and consent forms so that we can analyze and disaggregate findings. And the last rule is ensure, please, that children are informed about the next steps of the campaign and wherever possible, support them in taking forward their action ideas. So in the toolkit, we have established for you as a reference and really encourage you to follow some optional consultation plans. So the toolkit is divided by different sections and listing some of the key activities to consult child workers. And there are different plans that you can combine, you can apply in very different ways, and there is a lot of flexibility depending on the time availability, of your time availability, of the children's and the organizations, and so on. So similarly, in the PowerPoint and in the toolkit, the essential consultation tools are shown in red. So we have provided optional consultation plans for you to organize one-day workshop, half-day workshop, 2-hour group consultation session, or even 60-minute individual interview and creative expression. Apart from that, we really encourage you to organize have time and availability, additional follow-up action, and advocacy planning activities.
Many of the activities, the consultation activities, are designed to be used in focus group discussions, and a focus group discussion is a purposeful, facilitated discussion with a group of 4 to 12 participants with similar characteristics. So many of these activities have been designed to work with small groups of girls or boys of similar age range who are involved in similar types of work. So the activities, for example, could be organised with 8 to 12-year-old boys who are working as waste collectors, or with 13 to 17-year-old girls who are working as domestic workers, or there could be group discussions and activities with younger children aged 5 to 7 years. We encourage the children with similar backgrounds to work together, so they can really have that dynamic between them to share their ideas and experiences about what they like and they don't like about their particular work, and their ideas to improve their working lives. You'll see in this, as we go through this webinar, there's a number of different participatory tools that have been designed to support the consultations with working children. And there's an emphasis on using kind of participatory methods because it often builds upon children's own abilities and capabilities to express themselves in creative ways. It allows children to have more influence on the agenda and the flow of discussions, rather than be kind of waiting for adults' questions or for questions from young facilitators. The tools can be more interesting and fun to use, particularly in groups, bringing together their peers from a kind of similar background. And the tools themselves really encourage and enable children to discuss and to analyze those issues affecting them. So they allow us more opportunity for children's participation in analysis of the ongoing kind of results, in addition to us working systematically with children's advisory committees. And as you'll see from the example of the photo of this body map, they provide some quite interesting visual findings that might also be useful in the ongoing action and advocacy work undertaken by children and supportive adults at their local level or at national, regional or global level. So the tools use tools like body mapping, draw and write. They can use puppets, stories, dramas, and some of these tools are particularly useful for working with the younger children in the age range that we propose. And again, we encourage facilitators to actively include children with disabilities. We recognise that some of these tools may be needed to further adapt to children with different ways of communicating, but we very much encourage this process.
Okay, so now let's have a look at some of the tools that have been designed for the campaign. So we'll first go through the essential consultation tools, which are shown in red, and that we'll explain more in details in the toolkit, and then later we'll look at what we call the optional tools. So the first essential tool is the individual questionnaire and informed consent form. Claire will explain later the details of that, but just as a reminder, this is really a key tool for the research, and really that has to be used mandatory with each participant. The second tool is a day in the life of timeline. Then we have the body mapping that explores the likes and dislikes of child work. We have a mapping of work we can or should do and work we cannot or should not do. The flowers of support, which help us identifying what can different groups of people do to improve the lives of working children. We have the draw and write poem or story that really help children communicate and bringing their voice in an artistic way, in a visual way, which is sometimes much easier to convey messages. And then we have the next step in process that inform children about the next steps of the campaign, and to explore if they are willing to share updates on the campaign website, some videos, some photos as well, and participate actively. So the next slide now is about the optional tools. We will not go in details in this tutorial, but in the toolkit you really have a detail of each of these tools. And although they're optional, we had to make some decisions because we are aware of the time commitment and availability, but really encourage you all to use these tools once you have been able to use the essential tools. So one of that is the creative expression, which can really help us reflect on what are some of the most significant benefits and challenges of child work. There is a child lecture that brings us and explore what's going on in the communities, in the neighborhood, around the working environment for children, key decision makers, and so on. Also understanding the reasons and motivations for child work. Another tool will help us look what is advocacy and how it can be used to advocate for children's workers' rights. an age assessment that will look at the existing policies, laws, and approaches to child work and child labor, the visioning tree, and then we have a Venn mapping of decision makers.
So as Nicholas has mentioned, the individual questionnaire and informed consent form is being designed to be used with each child who takes part in the consultation. If children take part in a number of consultations, an initial and follow-up, they only need to complete this form one time, the first time, but it is essential that this form is completed with each child and with their parent or guardian. So we encourage that Part A, B and C is completed prior to the consultation because it provides very key background information about the child, their name and their gender, their age and contact details. It provides space to seek children's consent for being part of the consultation on child work, and should be again accompanied by sharing key information about the consultation, either verbally and or ideally using a local language version of the child-friendly information sheet that's been developed as part of this package. And Part C also shares information and seeks consent from the child's parent or guardian, so that to check that they give permission for the child to be part of the consultation. Part D, we encourage that this part is actually completed soon after the half-day or one-day consultation, because children might then be more at ease and more familiar and have more to kind of directly to share about their working situation. And Part D collects additional key information about the type of work the child is doing, about their care situation, who they're living with and what type of housing they live in, whether they're in a rural or urban background or in a refugee camp, for example. It seeks information, more detailed kind of summary information about whether they're doing paid work or whether the work's not paid, whether they're more doing chores, helping their families, and information about their school situation and any other relevant information, such as concerning their nationality or their ethnicity, their religion, any disabilities, whether children are on the move, for example. So again, this is a really key part of the consultation and research, so that the information we get from this form can be used to better understand the findings given by children during the consultations and to keep track of which children are actually part of this consultation process. Another key consultation tool, which is particularly used in the half-day and one-day consultation workshops at the start of the day, is a day in the life of timeline. And as you'll see in the photos, this enables children to draw and write about the day in a typical day of their lives, looking at a typical day when they're working and not going to school, if they both work and go to school, and a typical day of their life when they go to school, and looking at how they might combine their school, study, working life and other activities. So this tool enables us to really better understand how children balance paid work, chores, study, play and other opportunities, and to recognise the different ways that children work both on school days and on non-school days. And kind of the discussions from this tool also help kind of form groups of bringing together with children with similar kind of work for some of the other activities.
So now let us look at the body mapping, which explores the likes and dislikes of child work. So we mentioned it previously. The body mapping is a great visual activity during which children will be asked to shape a silhouette, a body mapping, and look on one side at what they like of child work, and on the other side what they dislike. So each body part of the drawing will be used to explore these different dimensions of the positive and negative impact of work, and help us as organizers analyze the views of children. So for example, we can have the head, we have different parts of the body, and the head will look at what they think about their work when they work, and what are their hopes when they think about their work. The eyes at what they see when they work, the ears at what they hear, the mouth, how they communicate, the heart, what feelings they have, the shoulders, what are their responsibilities, the arms and the hands, what they do, the stomach, what they eat, and then the legs and feet, where they go. So another essential activity is called the mapping of the work we can or should do and the work we cannot or should not do. So during this activity, the children will be grouped, well, similarly to the mapping actually, in different age groups, and they will look at these different categories and try to explore and discuss on what they consider what is the kind of work or what precise activity of work they can do and they should do, and the reasons why, and what necessary conditions they would put on it. An example would be that if they have to collect wood in a very remote place, they could say, we can collect the wood, but what are the necessary conditions to do it? Can be related to safety, can be related to if it enables them to go to school after it, and there are many other factors. Similar process will be done with the work they consider they cannot do and the work they consider they should not do and the reasons why.
Flowers of support is another of the essential tools that we're really encouraging to seek children's views about their kind of views and suggestions about what different people can do to improve their working lives. So the idea is that each group of people it has a petal, and the different petals together make a flower. So they might have a petal for what parents and caregivers can do, or a petal for what governments can do, or a petal for what children themselves can do. And on each petal they discuss and they keep a keynote of what's the messages and actions that each particular group can do. And the idea is that this flowers of support, that can also, children can also, and young people can also prioritize any particular group that they think they've got more chance of influencing and that they can access fairly easily in their local areas or at the higher levels with support to influence. So it can support them in action planning and in advocacy to address and take forward some of their key messages for different groups of people to improve the lives of working children. Another key activity that can be used individually, following workshops, during workshops, and kind of individually with individual children who may not have time to be part of a workshop but may be interested and have time to participate as an individual. And the children may have the choice to express their views using draw and write, and you can see an example here where there's a drawing of a small boy working, and the boy has written the story of his experiences. They could use puppets, as shown in the other photo, to share their experience, but somebody would need to again document their puppet story or their drama. Children can use poetry to express themselves or write a story. And the idea is that they can use these draw and write poems or stories to share their views, feelings, experiences, or recommendations on any kind of topic that's related to the consultations on working children. So, for example, they may choose to write on the theme of their reasons or their motivations for why they work. They might write more on what they like about their child work, or they might choose to write more on what they don't like about the work they're doing. They might want to draw and write or develop a poem about their future hopes and their views about whether their work helps or hinders them in achieving their future hopes. They might draw about their suggestions to improve the lives of working children, or they might share how they were already taking action and which action initiatives they are being effective in. So, for example, if working children are already organized and have had good experiences and positive results from earlier action, they might share those experiences through this methodology.
So the final essential tool and activity is called Next Steps in Process. So Claire outlined the 9 basic requirements for effective and ethical participation. And as part of that, of course, being accountable is very important, and inform children at all stages. So of what happens when the consultations are done is that all the findings will be written up and shared with the global campaign team in English, French, or Spanish. So we'll ask all the consultation organizers who will conduct the consultation with working children to transcribe in some tables, and this will be described in tutorial number 4, and to share it back with us. So we also really encourage you to invite children to identify and share 1 to 3 key messages and photos or pictures that they would like to be included on the campaign website. And at the same time, we will very often and periodically share key updates with groups who participate, and local advocacy is, of course, very well encouraged, and this is really well described in the research toolkit. So this is the end of tutorial number 3. So if you want further information, as I mentioned, there are other tutorials. So there is the first one describing the campaign and how you can get involved. A second one on the children's advisory committees, and then the fourth one and the last one on the documentation guidance, which we really strongly encourage you to look at and listen to. Also, please have a look at the website for further information and contact details. And once again, thank you very much for attending this tutorial, and we look forward to receiving the results of the consultations. Thank you very much.